Okay, so it's not recently. You heard this recently. Okay? This has been floating around for at least like 6 years of T Rex having feathers. There was a moment where we thought T Rex had at least like a cape of feathers going from the head to about the middle of the back. And now, the more scientists figure stuff out, the more they look at the skeleton, the more they look at its behavior, the way it was as an animal, how big it was. I mean, it's just more stuff that they're learning, as we all do. We're all learning this together. They learn it faster than we do because they have to sit on it for like sometimes decades, because sometimes it'll just sit in a museum and people forget about it and they're like, "Oh, you know what? Let's go back. Let's go check that out again." And then they'll go back. We have more technology that's able to even see what color those feathers are. And so we have skin impressions of Tyrannosaurus, and in all of the spots where feathers would be, we can't see the feathers. Why? Because either they were too big and they didn't need them anymore, just like elephants. Elephants are mammals. They should have hair. Most actually do have sparse hair, but you don't see a lot of it because they're so big they can regulate their own temperature. They don't need feathers to help them out. That's just how it is. That's what feathers usually do for dinosaurs specifically, is a lot of temperature regulation and display. That's just how it is. This thing weighed 15,000 pounds at the most. It didn't need a big plumage of feathers. In this documentary, Prehistoric Planet, the babies have feathers because they're little. Maybe their bodies need a little bit more heat or a little bit more cooling down than the adults. So that's why they depicted the babies with full feathers. And as they get older, just like baby chicks, they get rid of that downy feathering. And yes, chickens, they get their flight feathers or their adult feathers, right? But T Rex, being a primitive animal, most likely didn't need those big fluffy feathers like something like Velociraptor. And so the feathering on T-Rex, if you notice, if you watch the documentary, they actually added like what scientists call dino fuzz. So some species were big, like Tyrannosaurus, didn't need these big fluffy feathers, so they have these hair-like feathers going down from the top of the head to the back, like around the neck area and stuff like that. So it's like remnants of when they were a child still having feathers, but it's these feathers they don't necessarily need. I mean, that's kind of like humans. Like, we have clothes, we have hats, we have scarves and stuff that we can cover our faces with to add more heat because we can't take the cold very well. But that's why we have facial hair. That's why we have hair on our heads. That's why we have hair growing everywhere. Because our ancestors have more hair than we did, or than we do. So it's just remnants. Why do we have wisdom teeth? Because our faces were longer to fit all of those teeth. We are recently evolving out of needing wisdom teeth. There are many people nowadays that are being born without wisdom teeth because humans as a species were evolving to not need those anymore. And so the more mutations that humans get to not needing certain things or to evolving our bodies to where we don't need it, it takes a long time to do that. And that's just one thing that humans are getting rid of right now is wisdom teeth because we don't need them. Our faces are smaller. We just don't have room for all those teeth anymore. And that's like feathers. They just grew big enough to where they didn't need feathers. And with their arms, look at the arms of an ostrich. Look at the arms of Velociraptor. Look at the arms of Gallimimus, Ornithomimus, Struthiomimus. They all look very similar, right? Especially the ornithomimids. They all have a very similar structure. The dromaeosaurs, like Velociraptor, they all have a very similar structure to wings, to including wings. They can fold their hands back like that. T-Rex couldn't do that. It couldn't. Its wrists didn't work that way because it didn't support wings. Ornithomimids and dromaeosaurs, they have those kind of wrists. They had wings. They could fold their arms back like that. They could do that. But T-Rex's arms were like yours and I's, except their wrists were kind of locked, so they couldn't do this. So their hands were stuck in a clapping motion. So that's why they kind of hugged themselves in a natural pose for their hands, because that's all they can do. They can't scratch their head, they can't move their arms up very much, they can't move their arms back very much, because with, again, like I said, the 121 years, specifically just Tyrannosaurus Rex, that we know of, we're able to figure these things out. It takes time to understand paleontology. And from where you're coming from, it looks like you're just taking stuff from TikTok, because that's where the whole T-Rex with wings thing came from. It was very big, I understand. And the people that say those things, that claim those things, I guess, they really try and get their science in, but it's not enough. They're not scientists. They're people like you and I who are just like, huh, that's interesting. But you don't just take it on face value. You have to go into the study of their arms, of their muscle structure, of everything, in order to figure out if they could support wings or not. And all the evidence that scientists are able to give us, that we have available to us, it just shows that they couldn't support wings. I mean, I think I even said it in one of my responses to you that Velociraptor has quill notches and T-Rex does not. Look at a turkey vulture's wing bones. They have these little bumps in their wing bones to hold those big flight feathers. Now, Velociraptor couldn't fly, but it used those feathers possibly to hold down prey, for balance, for display. Sure, we don't know a lot about dinosaurs. You're right. There are a lot of things we don't know about them, and we're just scratching the surface right now. But we've dug pretty far down, and scientists do know a crap ton about dinosaurs right now. Like I said, we even know what colors they were. Microraptor was black like a crow. Sinosauropteryx had this rusty brown color with a banded tail like a raccoon. It was like a red, white, red, white, red, white. You want to know how we know that? Special microscopes that can see melanosome cells, certain shapes of the cells that we've compared to the same types of cells in frogs, alligators, humans, mammals, just everything. We've looked at the cells in hair, skin, scales, everything. They match exactly to those fossilized cells in the feathering and skin of dinosaurs. Psittacosaurus, a very small primitive ceratopsian where instead of the spike or the horns were on the head, the horns came out of the cheek. We know what color it was because we have very well preserved fossils that show that it was a very dark tan on top and a light tan on bottom, doing that counter shading thing. You just got to do some more research, buddy. That's all you got to do. And bringing up these claims of, oh, we don't know anything. It's not true. We know a lot about dinosaurs. You may not know a lot about dinosaurs, but that's okay because you can always educate yourself on dinosaurs. It's very easy. There was one day where I questioned, I was like, what color is Velociraptor? And the answer was, well, it depends on where it lived. It lived in the desert, so look at desert birds today. They probably had the same colors. And it makes sense. Just do some research next time, buddy. It really helps.